Morning everyone. Again, continuing with the theme of experimentation, working reasonably quickly, multimedia, ink, pastel. So I'm doing another one today. A couple of days ago, my wife and I were out in the local park doing our exercises, and I had my phone with me, and I took this photograph here. Okay, I think it's a great example of spring bursting into life. The problem is, of course, when we're in a situation like this in the landscape or wherever we might be, we can get very excited about the scene in front of us. We take a photograph, we come home, we print it off, and you think, well, it's not that inspiring after all. And this happens 9 times out of 10. So, as I'm always pointing out to you, we have to work through that. Just use this information here purely as information, as a basis to do something with. A painting, a drawing, whatever. It's very easy to think, oh, it doesn't inspire me anymore. Put it to one side and forget about it. So, in a few moments, I'm going to take this image, draw it up, and work quite quickly, very spontaneously, and using several mediums. Watercolour. In fact, if you don't have watercolour at home, you could use watered down acrylics. You get a similar result. So don't be put off by the fact you may not have watercolour. Watered down acrylics will do the job. Plus you may have other mediums, charcoal, ink, pastels. Okay, right, we'll make a start. Okay then, so the first thing we need to do obviously is to draw up the subject. As I keep repeating, it's only here to get me going, in other words. I'm not going to faithfully produce this as I see here. No, it's just a subject that I can work from. Keep the grass area to that point there, I think, and bring that across the base of the trees here. I'm using a strong pencil. This is a 7B because I want you to see the line drawing. Yes, there is a hedge. As you can see, I want to keep the sky quite big, because then I can, put some paint in there, let it run, and so forth. And of course the trees are quite tall. Okay, then we got bushes here, and that's that area. There's a sort of, I don't know whether there's a path leading through there. Yes, I also included a little bit of the house, just to add a bit of interest. Now here's an example where I can shift that house across and bring it over a bit. And that's only going to be an indication. That house, okay. It just adds a little bit of interest there. A window. Okay, that's good enough. And regarding the trees, this lovely tree here. And as you can see, I'm only marking things out. That's sufficient. I will let the mediums do the rest. Right, then there's a cluster of trees just here. And really, again, as I'm always emphasising, don't do an elaborate drawing. That's sufficient for this purpose. Okay, now I'm going to mix up some washes. Again, I want to keep it simple. I'm using watercolour here, but as I said earlier, you can do the same technique, watering down your acrylics. It's the same process. So for the sky, ultramarine blue, and as you're aware, with watercolour, also with acrylics, remember it will dry off much lighter. I said ultramarine blue, that actually this is cerulean blue. Okay. So this is how you mix your washes, and then also do a slight test here. That's quite light. So just give me a few minutes and then I'll come back. Okay, but this is what you need to do. I've just measured out some clean water using the pipette. Now it's a question of getting the washes the right density. And always remember, it will dry off much lighter, usually about 50%. I'll be back with you in a moment and we'll make a start. Okay, so I've mixed up some washes, and as I'm often saying to you again, you can choose your own range of colours. Don't forget, you've got to be adventurous. and just be creative and take chances. So yes, cerulean blue, ultramarine blue, sap green, and they've got some yellow ochre here. But feel free to use whatever colours you're happy with. Okay, now let the excitement commence. As I'm often mentioning again, this is where you need to have real courage, and it's very easy again to look here and start to copy what's here, but no, I'm just using that as a subject matter, and I'm not going to let my spontaneity, creativity take over. And remember one of the golden rules: nothing is wrong, nothing is right. I'm going to work again quite quickly because I enjoy doing that, working in a more spontaneous way. Lining paper, I'm working quite big scale, that gives me even more freedom. So if I take a big brush, and we'll start with the sky, but don't be hesitant, I'll make it quite damp. There we go. And I'll be stroking the colour in soon and just seeing what happens. I can see the dry areas, which is okay. Right, now because it's quite warm here, I'm going to put the paint on now. Okay. Now I may have to lift the board a little bit. Anyway, let's take a chance. I'll start off with the cerulean blue, give it a stir, and there we go. Pick up some more. Let gravity play its role. If I wanted to, as I said a moment ago, I can always tilt it. Now, I know this is going to dry off quite a bit. I won't worry too much about that. Also, to add a bit more interest to the sky, I did mix some yellow ochre. So, okay, go on, I'll tilt it around a little bit. And then I've also got, as I mentioned, some ultramarine blue. Just picked up a little bit of yellow ochre there, and probably I've done enough there, otherwise it can get messy quite quickly. Resist the temptation to want to tidy these up. Alright, I can let it move around a little bit and just let chance take over. There we go, that's the sky done. Regarding the foreground, the grassy area, I can do that quite quickly. So once again, I'll work wet onto wet, clean the brush. That's giving the impression of showers, isn't it? But I'll leave it. I could fiddle with it, but I'm going to leave it. I want to enjoy this process. That was wet onto wet. Go on, I'll dampen the foreground, or wet the foreground. I may be taken up into where the trees are as well. Okay. And there we go, the grass is in. Okay, I can come back to the sap green if I wanted to, and put in some, perhaps straight from the palette, straight from the pan I should say, just to denote that hedge. Go. Right, now I come back in now, go straight to the palette and just darken up one or two areas here. Now in a moment I'm going to have to wait a little bit because I need to work on the trees. In the meantime, perhaps I'll and maybe I'll indicate some shadow there. So I'll go quite dark with the green. I'm using a different green this time. I know we don't see shadow there, but as I keep reminding you, I can do whatever I want. Alright, that's good, fair. Now I can leave it. I just need it to dry before I come back and deal with the sky. While I'm waiting for the sky to dry, perhaps I can come back and actually do the house. So, some yellow ochre. This is wet on to dry. Here we go. Touch of red. Cadmium red. And that's the house for the moment. Maybe that's the house. Okay, it's got a roof, as we can see. Pane's grey. Job done. I can come back and tweak a little bit in a little while. Even though we don't see it here, I can indicate that there's something else, maybe another building through there. Again, I'm just adding interest, even though it doesn't exist. Maybe even put a peak or something in there. Okay. Again, while I'm waiting for the sky to dry up a bit more, I can come back to certain areas and darken. As you can see, it's still damp, so the paint will flow around. And remember, it's going to dry off a lot lighter than the actual application here. And if I need to soften here, I can see some dark edges, bottom of the hedge there. Maybe bring up some darker areas here. And again, if I need to soften those edges, do them quite quickly. There we go. As you can see, again, it's still on the damp side, so I've got to be careful not to go too messy. I'll bring up the shadows to have more contrast. But as you can see, there's no shadows here. So again, I'm using my imagination. Okay, now I can work on the trees themselves. And yes, I've got to keep reminding myself that I'm not here to make perfect trees. This indication. And there's a lot of ivy around them, so if I just sort of get some ivy showing, I can come back and tweak and remember, I've got to come back also with other medium, maybe the pen and ink, certainly the pastel. I'll use some raw sienna. As I keep reminding you, I'm trying to follow as much as I can the instinct. Okay, and we've got this clump of trees over here. I go to the burnt sienna. I can put in some individual branches in a little while. Maybe a little grey, Payne's grey in there. Okay, that's going to dry off in a moment. I'll work on this for a couple of more minutes and then we'll come back to it. So I'm just going to again indicate the main elements of this tree. I can do some, I think, some finer work using the twig and also the pastel. While I'm on the dark, I can come into back to this house here and just bring up the windows again. And again, just flicking the brush around to suggest what else might be there, just to create a little bit of interest in and there. So I'll just finish this off. As you can see, I filled out the trees a little bit more. Very soon I'm going to resort then to the other mediums. This is a bit on the light side. Okay, I'll just dampen it a little and then I'll put in some paint just very quickly. There we go, just to bring up that foreground a little bit more. Good. Now I think we can try another medium. Okay, so I think I finished with the painting process. Now I've taken the India ink, a thin twig. I've still got some twigs left, but they're running short because people have been buying them over the last week or so. So if you do need any twigs, get in touch with me quite quickly. And just start to indicate some of these finer branches. Okay, you get the idea. Also in this distance here. Right, so we can come back to this in a few moments or a few minutes. Enjoy the twig. Then we can also come in with the pastel, or indeed any other medium, maybe charcoal. As you can see, I'm not trying to gain control over this twig. You must let it do its, go wherever it wants to. Okay, that's the exciting bit about it. Now I'm using the thicker end of the twig. I could of course purchase a thicker twig anyway, but that would take a couple of days to come via Amazon. So, as I reminded you earlier, I've still got some for sale. Do get in touch. Alright. Coming to this area here, I can now have more control over the twig. Go back to the thinner end and just gain a bit of control over it this time. Or better still, I could use the pen. Here we go, the calligraphy pen. There we go. Because I got the paper quite flat, so therefore gravity will play its role. I'm not really referring to the photograph, the picture now. I'm just, as I often say, go wherever the interest or the eye takes me. Now, remember, I still got to come back here with pastel or whatever medium you're inclined to use. So now I'm going to turn to the pastel and try and get something of the spring-like, the buds. So once again, I'm going where the instinct takes me. As you can see, I'm using a light yellow here. So I want to create this impression of spring bursting out. It's almost like sunlight coming through there. Maybe I'll come over here and indicate some sunlight bursting through. I suppose got to be careful I don't overdo it. Let's then turn to a light green. Same effect. Now as you can see, it's sitting on top of the watercolour quite nicely. And once again, I'm not standing here thinking, oh my goodness me, this doesn't look like very spring-like colours. Or no, I'm just having fun with this. And as I often say to you, go wherever the instinct takes you. There we go, even into there. Maybe I'll bring up a path there. I've taken what appears to be burnt umber just to indicate some of the stronger branches, particularly at the bottom. I suppose I could smudge it a little bit there. Just to give it a bit more depth. Bring up the window maybe. Good. And as you can see, where else do I go with this? So I'm quite happy with what I've done. It's quite therapeutic as long as you don't get too fussy about it and don't try to spend your time wanting to create a lovely painting. It's just experimenting. Don't know what else to do. Oh, if I take some white, as we can see in the image, actually, in the photograph that is, and the light has caught that trunk of the tree there, so I could indicate that with the white. There we go. That's probably overstating it, but it doesn't matter. Then I'm inclined to do a little bit here. Interesting area there. I just zoom in a little bit. And it is a combination of lights against dark, so to make that work even more, I suppose I could come in. Now remember, I'm using invention here. It doesn't exist in the photograph. Good. I'm going to leave this in a few moments. I'm quite happy with that. The only thing I need to do now, of course, is to find a mount. And let's have a look then. With a mount over it. There we go. I'll put it on the easel in a moment, we'll see it better. So, as I said, this is to encourage you to just have a go yourselves. And remembering, enjoy the exercise, don't get precious, just have a go and see what happens. Thanks for watching. Oh, I'll show you a still in a moment. Okay, bye for the moment.